Hi everyone, my name is Oscar,
Hi, my name is Naomi.
and we're your peer educators for the Counseling Center. Today we're going to be talking about culture and adaptation.
We asked you through our Instagram story, and we just want to go briefly through the responses that we got. So, Oscar, do you want to read the first one?
Yeah, so the question we asked was, and we kind of wanted to just gauge the community and ask, what is your biggest moment of culture shock? And so some responses we wanted to share with you all. This is going to be anonymous, so in the future, if you do want to share with us as well for these podcasts about mental health, definitely share. We were very grateful for these responses. The first one says, when a white dude screamed coronavirus at me in the middle of the pandemic, that was a culture shock for them. Seeing less Asians and walking past people who actually say hello to you. Handshakes. And I'm from a place that hugs even if you just met a complete stranger. So the handshake was a little odd. A culture shock was when I was 5 and found out white people wear shoes in the house. I can kind of relate with that, to be honest. And then the last one is during freshman year, so many people asked me if I was an international student, despite the fact that I was born and raised in LA. So these are some culture shocks that some APU students shared with us. And if you have any experiences, and while you're listening to this, you can reflect on that. I think it's good to reflect on your cultures and how you've adapted to new environments. We wanted to share some of our personal stories with that too, and have that be kind of our podcast today for Wellness Wednesday. Naomi, do you want to go first?
Okay, so just a brief introduction of myself. I am an international student. I grew up in Thailand since young. Well, I was born in Korea, but then I moved to Thailand. So, adapting different cultures was not something that I was struggling with. It was easy for me to understand the differences and notice the differences in cultures and stuff. So, but one of the biggest thing that I noticed from Korea, actually, you know how people hold doors for you and smile to strangers and ask if they're having a great day, or after we, just like walking out the door, we just say thank you. That's just like a normal thing that people do. But for me, I was doing that in Korea, and people were just like staring at me. I was a stranger, and so that's like the cultural shock that I got.
No, I that just like that experience. Thanks for sharing that. It just reminds me though of how a lot of times when you are, like you said that you were kind of you kind of adapted to American culture, right? Um, you you immigrated from Thailand, right?
Yeah.
So you went to Thailand to Korea, and
I
then
was
you
born
came
in
to.
Korea and I moved to Thailand, and then I graduated there and I went to America, APU.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's so awesome. It's so awesome that you were exposed to those different environments. But just like that concept of I know a lot of American people who were born in America, they view Asian cultures as very closed off, and like they kind of see it in a negative, they have a negative perception towards it, but it's just that they're not used to it, and that's not part of their culture. And I think a part of this discussion is just reflecting on those things, and I'm thinking about how I would perceive it. And I think I've seen people, as well as like my own perception of that. It's just like, whoa, it wasn't even that serious. I just want to do something nice to you. I want to smile at you. Like I wasn't trying to be a creep, but it could be perceived that way because it's abnormal for some cultures to act that way. So yeah, that's just a point that I thought of when you were talking about that.
Thank you.
Continue.
And another thing is, I noticed that American culture, they're mostly like individualistic, but Asian culture is more like togetherness, family based. So that was one of the things that I was a little shocked about, that because for me, I always thought that I can live with my family and stay with them, you know. Because of my culture, I always thought that I would be with them. But after talking with some students at APU, I noticed that they were very individualistic and they were on their own. Like they didn't really try to depend on their parents or their family. So that's what kind of surprised me, I would say.
Yeah, it's kind of like that shift. Like you depended on your family your entire life, but then a lot of Western cultures at 18 or sometimes earlier, sometimes later, the parents decide that like it's you have to be on your own, you have to go to college, you have to live on your own and stuff. This is something that was kind of different for me too, because I my parents never had that expectation for me because I guess we're more from a collectivist culture, as you said. Um, so it was, I can relate with that, like that it was kind of a weird experience in that I didn't know which one is correct. And I don't think any is correct, like we had to have a respect that like it's correct for their culture and that's totally okay and that's respectable, um, and we can appreciate that, but it might differ from our own.
Uh, Last one.
From what you've told me personally as well, like are you trying to say like how you've never had too much trouble with like culturally adapting?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Cause that's something that like I've been thinking about too. Cause I think you've been in such unique environments and having that opportunity to continually adapt to new environments and grow and develop and grow in that aspect as well. I think it's preparing you to continually adapt to new environments with more ease and um, yeah, but I wanted to say like I'm sorry that you had that experience um with you said it was friends or
No, just people that I met.
okay.
Yeah, we were all new, so it's fine. Like I understand they were just curious about me, so
Yeah.
they were just asking me questions. But I think all the international students can relate to this.
Mm.
That they always hear, "Wow, your English is so good." So like we just want to know what that actually means, you know?
Yeah, I just wanted to I'm gonna go back to that, but I just wanted to preface this whole conversation to people who are listening that like we are coming from more of a different perspective and that Naomi is she is a international student and I was born in America, but we come from collectivist cultures that differ in their unique ways as well. But I just wanted to say that this is our perspective. This is not a universal thing, but in the end, we're going to be talking about how we can respect that other people have different cultures than us, and that is okay, and how we can culturally adapt to the new environments, and not allow these differences that other people may have offend us or keep us from opportunities that we want to pursue. Um, but yeah, I wanted to say that like that sucks that they kind of assumed that your English would be bad if because they assumed that where you're from and whether that's a, sometimes like people have these stereotypes or assumptions and they might feel a gratification. They're like, oh yeah, I made that assumption, and you're like, okay, well that is right, but then makes you doubt your capabilities. So it's not right in any form like when people make those assumptions, and I think people need to be more careful with talking to international students, especially because I have a lot of international friends too, and they had similar experiences, and I can't I can't imagine. Yeah, but yeah, go ahead.
So do you want to share about your personal stories?
Yeah, it's so funny because when you're talking about these, although we both reflected before this conversation on some experiences we had, but they were different. But now I feel like there's some I have some relate I can relate in some ways. Um, but yeah, I wanted to talk about how um, there's an experience of me needing to culturally adapt to APU. I come from a predominantly Asian community in Arcadia. It's in California. Like we're very diverse. So I've been exposed to different cultures, but because Arcadia is predominantly Asian, I was always kind of part of that majority. So I had people to relate with, and people talk like me, acted like me, had experiences with their parents like me. Like I could relate in those aspects. But when I came to APU, I realized people looked at me different. People um people like when I was eating my lunch. So this is something about Asian foods, like I understand that sometimes it looks really weird, or they we have some shrimp in there, we put like everything, you know. um but I didn't even acknowledge that this is kind of a more of a Eastern style foods. It's like more exotic, I guess, than like what people have in America. Because I've been exposed to like hamburgers. Not that that's what encompasses Western foods, but I've been exposed to that because I'm in America. Um, but not all of it, of course. But then we have our own culture of foods, and if we cook it differently, it looks different. And when I was eating at APU, I felt so insecure. I would literally go to the library to eat it, and that was a minute part of my cultural adaptation to APU, but it was a significant part because there were times where I wouldn't even take out my lunch to eat it. And then I realized that I had this unconscious feeling of shame to be like eating something that is I would even buy food sometimes if I was with a group of friends just because I know it smelled. If you microwave my food, it smelled differently. Like um anyways, that was kind of a thing that I had to learn from. But now I've grown so much from that experience, to be honest, and I feel like I've learned to feel empowered by my culture and excited that I get to share my cultural like foods and ideas and values with other people. And especially when doing that, I can facilitate new discussion with other people and they share their cultures. It's been such a positive experience. Um, and I don't know if anyone can relate with that story, but like if you have that similar story or experience, I do recommend like talking to one person about it. Maybe after talking to that one person about it and they give you a positive experience, you'll branch out and share more of your food. But it takes that one good experience. So just sometimes that one step of vulnerability is really important. That's something that I would love to share with all of you guys. Um, my next experience, really quick, is just at APU. It was more if I didn't really talk to a lot of people outside of my culture, but going into APU, I realized people talk different than me. I felt very extroverted at my high school. I thought I was able to be part of groups and talk to individuals. But when I was at APU, I remember I was a part of this group at APU, and it was part of like kind of a club thing, but everyone noticed that I was a little more shy. I was kind of shy. I was intimidated. Everyone there was a senior and I was a freshman, and entering this group you had to try out and stuff. So going into this group I was so intimidated and I was very reserved, but I wanted to listen and I wanted to learn from everyone. But because of that they started labeling me as, yeah, Oscar's very quiet. Oscar is very reserved. Yeah, Oscar, I'm sure you're very like intelligent and stuff. We just don't know. They started saying these small remarks to me, and that's where I kind of related with you, Naomi. That like maybe those small comments actually discourage that person from being their true self. So I didn't feel like I was my authentic self until later on. I grew in age. I grew in grade level. And I started gaining that confidence. It does take time, and it did take time to grow out of that box that they put me in. But I do feel super, super boxed in by that label that I'm super quiet when I actually had so much to share and talk about. Um, and yeah, I don't know if if anyone on campus knows, but I love music, and this was a music group, and it was something that I was so passionate about. And sometimes we're a part of something that we're so passionate about, but then people box us in with one comment. One comment comes in with two comments because you're in a group setting, and things like that. It really doesn't discourage that person, and it limits their ability to culturally adapt to that environment. I didn't feel as close to that group as I did later years. So I wanted to share that experience, and like encourage anyone who is in a group right now that might have put them in a box or label. I've grown so much because of my small conversations with people and my small vulnerabilities. Similar to my last story, talking to one person really helped me gain confidence, and they learned to help. They helped me. It was a collaborative thing, and we kind of changed the culture of the group. Uh, but that's important too, and anyone who is trying to culturally adapt, that's a personal advice that I would give. But yeah, any comments, Naomi?
Well, yeah, thank you for sharing. I'm just glad that you found back your confidence because I agree. Just um approaching to them and just like having a little conversation really helps you. Um like for me, of course, like I agree with you. I decided not to actually expose myself or express my feelings towards the others because I just felt like, well, they're not interested and well, why would they care? That's all I thought. But like as soon as someone asked me about my personal stories or I noticed that actually there's like someone who wanted to um, know about me, that really allowed me to change my thought about the things that I was actually boxing myself, you know? Like I just felt like I was trapped in a box since freshman. But I agree with you, like growing up, I was able to actually like walk out of that box and just like um, share my stories when I had to. And I was, yeah, I noticed that I'm a little different now. Oh, thank you for that heart. Yeah.
Oh, that's so awesome. I'm so glad that you had that experience too, and it's definitely something that you carries with you right into your next experience.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And for anyone who is in that box right now, or in feeling like they can't really open up to someone, um, it's sometimes good to write that down too, or be able to like talk to a family member, talk to, and the thing is like a lot of times we feel like we don't have that person, um, because someone might say something discouraging to you, and you feel like that they're definitely they don't understand, they don't want to have a relationship with me. But we're kind of on this topic of microaggression, right? And I don't know if everyone who is listening right now knows what that is, but it's basically like very the unintentional sometimes. Sometimes they're intentional, but a lot of times they're unintentional remarks that people say. So they're like, oh, where are you from? They might ask me that, where are you from? When I've been from America, like it's a insinuation, it's an assumption that based on your prejudice, based on your bias. So that's why it's good to be very culturally sensitive when you talk to people, engage people. But a lot of times they don't mean to do that. They're not intentionally trying to hurt you, um, but they do, and it's less about your intention. Sometimes it's more about the impact you have on others. So um, yeah, just ask them like, do you want to know more about my culture, or do you want to know more about me? Because I feel like I'm not being my authentic self with you. That would be something that can be very empowering, I feel like. Um, but yeah, do you want to kind of end this discussion with some helpful tips that we found through some research and um, some online resources?
Yeah. The first one is motivate yourself to be curious and learn about different cultures. Um, deep into yourself in the way others live, think, and work will help you become more sensitive to other ways of thinking and being. It's okay to ask questions. Like, um, it's okay to be shy. Just try your best to be open. Yeah, nobody's perfect, you know. We all make mistakes. It's better
Yeah.
to ask questions rather than just assuming and expecting from the others. So
Mm.
yeah, so it's okay, and nobody's perfect, but we can always strive to be better. So yeah, motivate yourself to be curious.
Yeah, I love that. We also thought about being aware of our cultural differences. I think we kind of reflected that a little bit in our stories, but just taking the time to think about this topic also can help your brain. It can help rewire your cognitive processes in the way you engage different topics. So, right now, maybe you don't really think about other cultures when you're thinking about a topic, but because you become aware of these cultural differences and you become more sensitive, it becomes a part of your thought processes the next time. And I think that's something that's really important, and something that I've learned to be more aware of. The more I learned about psychology too and mental health, I think it's important to know that each person goes by their own pace. It has different value systems, belief systems, cultural differences, and once we become aware of that, it becomes a constant thing. Um, and then lastly, do you want to cover this last one?
Okay, take actions that get you out of your comfort zones as you experience other cultures. So, for example, even adjusting the way you run your meetings to adapt to other cultures will help you flex and improve your neutral plasticity. um,
Yeah.
you, you want to add on something to
Yeah, no, it just basically building habits in your mind. It kind of similar concept in that um you are trying to allow your brain and your thinking processes to involve cultures, different cultures. And the more we acknowledge that like not every situation is going to be the same as what we're used to, we can better adapt to it the next time. um, and also just building your cultural sensitivity is important because um, we don't offend other people. And like from hearing some of your experiences, Naomi, like 100% microaggressions or small remarks when you're not being fully aware of your actions or fully aware of your words, it can really hurt someone. So just being aware of that is really important. So yeah, we just wanted to end this discussion with some announcements. But we are recruiting for peer educators. The applications are due March 5th, and we have a link on the bio of our Instagram. But we also, just to give you some context, it's going to be under Peer Educator Program on our website. So if you go to that tab, there will be more information in the application.
And thank you to all who gave us all the answer to our questions this week. Please keep an eye on our Instagram for future questions. We're gonna have different questions posted up every week for different topics for this type of podcast for Wellness Wednesday. So feel free to just write your answers down, and it's gonna be anonymous. So don't be shy. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was so fun. Like being able to read some of your comments. Definitely, like if you feel shy about it, it's anonymous, and we definitely encourage you to do it because we love hearing about your experiences, and we're not gonna call you out during during the podcast. Yeah, and then lastly, as always, we have the counseling center for all students. It is free, and all you have to do is call 626-815-2109. Kim, our receptionist, she'll help you do all of the being able to connect with the counselor and stuff like that if you need extra help. But yeah, Naomi, this is fun.
It was fun.
All So I wish everyone luck with their school, with academics, with family, just everything. Like,
Yes.
take care of yourself.